Hey folks, my name is Cooper, and I am working on my own game. It is a little turn-based RPG I'm calling Discovery. I think recently I updated the name to Discovery with the, I guess, subheader Corporate Explorer. When I went to publish my demo on itch.io, I noticed that there are a whole bunch of games named Discovery, which is not shocking. I haven't done a full look on Steam to see how many like real production games there are. I guess itch.io are still production games, but obviously it's a pretty commonly used word. It's a pretty easy name. So I'll probably try toying around with that eventually, but yeah, that is the game title as it is on the title screen right now. So that's what I'm going to keep calling it. And yeah, so I've been working on this game for a few months now, and I was finally able to put a demo out yesterday. The demo is available through itch.io. Itch.io is currently down, so I'm not really able to show that off in this developer log, which is unfortunate. But I'm going to put a link down below for that. It is available through Windows download, and you can also play it in browser. I was having some issues at first with the browser's memory getting filled. I guess your browser can have a maximum of 2 gigabytes allotted, and once that memory fills up, if you're not doing anything to free up assets, unused assets, it's just done for. But I did do a little bit of work to free up some of those unused assets. It was just not something I had even considered before, since the game is pretty small at this point. Again, it's demo sized, but it should be now working on web in the browser without any sort of memory related crashes. I would anticipate the demo taking between 10 to 15 minutes, more than likely. There are certainly some known issues, a lot of stuff, the art still looks like it was made by a child. I think it's kind of similar to like when you're in 3rd grade and you're making macaroni art, is kind of the level that I would describe myself at. Hopefully by the time this game comes out, I'm more like a high schooler making doodles on the back of their pages. There's obviously a lot of room for improvement. The text, all this sort of stuff is just default fonts other than the Discovery text itself. So lots of stuff to be done there, but in general, there's a basic gameplay loop. I would just call it the intro sequence is kind of what I'm thinking of it as. That is going to be in the final game itself. In my mind, this would be probably a 5-act story, and this would be sort of an introductory act before. Well, I guess this probably would be Act 1. Maybe I would add a little bit more detail to it eventually. But this is the first little chunk of story, sort of introducing you to the world, getting you familiar with the combat, etc. So I guess in this devlog, I wanted to just kind of show off what I've done in the last little bit of time. I don't have a ton of new features or anything to show. It was a lot more debugging, and again, I sort of built the game for the first time, built it to run on Windows, and then running that browser version, which the browser version definitely gave me some headaches. It makes sense, right? Sorry. But running a game in your browser is obviously pretty resource intensive for the browser itself, as compared to something just your Windows operating system has a lot more firepower to it. So I guess I want to sort of use this as not just showing off the game itself, but showing off like the development process. So one thing that I did that I think was pretty important was put together this time tracker. So this time tracker I've been using for a few months. I wasn't using it for like the first month, so you can see a lot of these early entries were, I did these all at once, probably on March 2nd. So these are all kind of incomplete, but the rest of these, every time I work on the game, specifically anything in Unity, art or sound effects, I'm not tracking in here. Same with writing. But anything I'm working with in Unity more or less is going to be tracked in here. So I found this pretty useful. Obviously, you can see I was highlighting. This was the last time I did the devlog, so anything from this point on was what I was going to talk about. And for the most part, it's, again, those sort of build specific things and some bugs related to that. And a couple of things that I hadn't really thought about, for the demo, like having a splash screen when you load the game. That's not something I'm really looking at in the editor. So I've had this running for a while, but what I guess wanted to point to was this like to-do log, this the actual task tracking. This is something, if you've worked in a corporate job, especially in like a tech job, you've seen all sorts of stuff like this. Monday.com is what I used most recently, but there's a million different ways of time tracking. But this specifically is less of the time track. This is the project management tool, I guess is what I would call it. So I have it sort of organized loosely by what category I think of it in. And then the most important things are this roadmap. So these demo items were all things that I wanted to figure out before the demo. You'll see a couple of them I did not really do. I would say that a couple of these I just don't really have marked, but like this one, custom bit of dialogue after a death cycle, I have most of that in. It's just when you leave the ship, I don't have a little bit of dialogue, so that's like a tiny little bug that exists. I just didn't get it in for the demo because eventually you got to put the demo out, and it's not game breaking by any means. I don't even think most people are going to run into it, so I just didn't put it in there. And then something like the wake up sequence, I put an hour and a half into trying to do it, couldn't quite get it, so I'm just going to put that in later. But this was, I feel like these two columns were the most important things. Obviously, checking the status, getting an idea of the size, what the actual work type is, right? Art, programming, theory, and all that sort of stuff. But this gave me an idea of, again, how important is it to me for this to be in the game, and then how early on do I need it. Obviously, for the most part, I knew this, I'm looking for the demo, so what do I need to be in the demo versus what can come later on. And I'm sure as I'm working on the early stage, I'll take some stuff that's in mid and late and put it into early, and vice versa, right? Some stuff that I don't actually think needs to be in that early stage, I'll kick out. But this was just a good start. Again, this is another thing that gives you sort of those dopamine hits of a big part of putting the demo out, right, is getting that dopamine hit of, hey, I've created something. This is a finished, complete loop. I can have people play this. I can show this off to my friends. It's a concrete sign of progress. This is the same thing on a smaller scale, where every time I finish an item, I can go in here and I can click done and I can filter it out. It just makes you feel good, right? It makes you feel like you've accomplished something. So obviously that has nothing to do with the actual game design, but that is something I guess I wanted to show off because that was a big thing that I added. But yeah, beyond that, I guess the other thing I kind of wanted to mention, and I will walk through the actual game a little bit just because that's what we're here for, right? Actually, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to show y'all a build real quick. So once this stops loading, yeah, let me just cut real quick. Okay, so this is my game, I guess, file system, file package. This is the whole game is in here. I mean, you go in assets, you'll see all my actual sprites uploaded into here, right? These are the PNGs of the actual characters and whatnot. I mean, I can open them and everything. There's that little guy, looks great. That's not what it looks like in the game. It's not pixel perfect in that specific look at it. But this is some builds that I've made. So you go in here, this is the Windows version, so this all gets zipped up so that you have like the Unity player, Unity crash handler and stuff, but this is the actual executable. So it's just discovery.exe. Again, another one of those little things. This is like a splash screen, something I didn't really think about until I started doing the builds. Another one is this little icon, right? I just used Discovery's face. I'm pretty happy with that. I figured that's probably what I'll do maybe permanently. I think it looks pretty good, and Disco obviously is a pretty big part of the game, hence why she's on the title screen. But yeah, so this is the game. One thing that I can't figure out for the life of me is usually this dude's eyes are like 1 pixel taller. I think it looks way better like that, but for some reason I can't get that to work, and I'm not gonna spend more time than I already have, at least in terms of the demo version. This was one thing that I added just to give a little more personality to the ship itself. This is like, I'm gonna call it the disco room. I guess in my mind, this is like, it's supposed to be like a Tesla coil. This is supposed to be like providing energy to the ship, any sort of systems, Disco herself, and I'll probably build some more like computer looking stuff as well, so for it to be sort of like a server room as well, and then just some piping that it's supposed to be more like an electrical grid, but whatever, just add some character. I tried to add this document, which is supposed to give you a little bit more context to what the point of the game is. When my sister tested the game, one thing that she mentioned is, I don't really get what the point of the game is, which is obviously, that's a pretty important part of selling somebody on playing your game, is having them care about playing the game and there being a reason to beat the game, period. So that was a little thing that I thought was worth adding in. But yeah, I mean, for the most part, it wasn't adding a lot of features. Something like this, press X to interact. I changed this document, this text a little bit, but a lot of it was the save states. Save states were pretty buggy when I first started working on them, but at this point I've got them working pretty well. So your active move set, your life form tracker, all that sort of stuff. I'm not going to go through the game very much right now just because I don't feel the need to, but the save states are something that I worked on a lot. I think I've got those pretty patched up, which again, for a demo, people aren't really saving and loading a whole lot, but it was pretty important for me just to have that be functional. One thing that I had to definitely get fixed, there were some things with the build specifically in terms of the loading timing. So when a scene popped in, did a boolean get set before or after? So specifically for this, when you're in dialogue, you can't move, right? If you can move during dialogue, you're going to be able to go through triggers that need to trigger a next point of dialogue or trigger a story node, and if you go through that trigger, then we're going to have a problem because you can't trigger the trigger, and that means that you're stuck. You've broken the game. So those are just, that's one of the things that I noticed that happened in the build that wasn't happening in the editor version. When I'm just working on the game in Unity, you run the game, it's like the editor version. Another thing was when you had that dialogue, it would like do that when you opened, like that was not you moving, it just was sort of janky. I had like this little jittering whenever you interacted with something. So things like that I just cleaned up. In the future I'll have some actual footage of those sort of bugs as I worked on them, just to make it a little bit better, or to sort of show the progress. But yeah, that's sort of what it is right now. This is sort of the same exact combat. I changed the color of the feedback words a little bit, again just try to make it a little bit more intuitive, and I think the title screen or the end panel, I think I changed that since the last demo, but regardless, I'm just going to kind of run through this. But the main things that I've sort of cleaned up are, again, that the save state stuff was a big thing, and then what I found interesting and I guess worth sharing was in the build versions, there were just some things that were sequenced differently in terms of when a new scene loaded, especially, right? Something like that right there. You're going from scene A to scene B and instantly launching dialogue. Sometimes in the builds, I guess, again, you're just using different systems behind the scenes, so things loaded at different speeds. And that meant that there were certain things, again, like dialogue was not locking the player movement right here. It was not locking pausing. So there was just some things where you could absolutely break the game, which that's not ideal, right? If you're breaking the game, then that's not good for either of us, because you break the game, you can't really do anything anymore, right? So just to show off the save state one more time, again, you can kind of see the discography is a little bit buggy, which you'll kind of see when we load this back, but The life form tracker, you're able to get it back in here. We will go to main menu and then continue exploration. You'll see the player positioning was something that took a little bit of work to get, just because you have to load the scene and then load the player position in there, whereas before everything else is just data, right? I can just load that behind the scenes without having the scene be loaded in time. But you can see here, right? So yeah, that's not unlocked, which, did I unlock that before? Doesn't really matter. Save states aren't perfect, but save states don't have to be perfect for a demo. But you can see, like in the life form tracker, that is unlocked. You can see that this and this enemy is still gone, or this life form is still gone. And if you go here, you can see that our story node is still up to date. So stuff like that, I got cleaned up for the demo. And then, yeah, I mean, beyond that, I'd like to show you all the itch.io page, but I think it is still down. But yeah, I mean, I think for the most part, that's the biggest thing. Again, yeah, the demo is up. I have a completed loop that y'all can actually go through and play. Again, you can go through, you unlock the moves. I don't have a ton of tutorial and stuff right now. That was definitely one piece of feedback that I definitely can understand, wanting to get a little bit more of an understanding of what the gameplay is before I just have letters going on the screen. Again, it's one of those things where I know what the game is because I built it, so it's intuitive to me that when the letter pops up, you hit it in timing fashion. But I do get that I probably could explain it a little bit. So, yeah, I think that's mostly what I wanted to talk about in this devlog. Yeah, I mean, biggest thing is the demo is out. I will link it below. I would love for any of y'all to test it out for me. I think any feedback I'm happy to take. I mean, especially stuff that's like ideas, concepts on combat. Somebody on the last video commented and mentioned that having sort of like a combo meter or something that, like, if you hit all perfects, you get rewarded with that. That's something I'm definitely going to be implementing. I think that the biggest thing for me in terms of having new concepts is going to be combat related, things to add variety to it without it just being randomness. And sort of having an increasing difficulty level that doesn't, again, just feel like it's random, creating problems for the player. It has to be solvable, right? That's why everybody loves those FromSoft games, is because they're incredibly difficult, but you can learn how to beat them, right? It's pattern recognition. It's not just, did I get a good roll or a good run, right? It's not just when did the percentages work out for me? So, yeah, beyond that, I guess, yeah, go check out the game. I'll leave my email below as well, so email me if you have any feedback, thoughts. You can comment on this video as well. I look at all that stuff because, I mean, I don't have a lot of it, and I'm very open to feedback right now. Again, especially the smaller the better, because I can change small things. If you tell me, hey, I think this is a dumb way to make a game, like, there's not a whole lot I can do about that. At this stage, again, I'm not going to scrap my game because you don't like it, but if you think there are some small things that need tweaking, I can absolutely do, and I probably will do. Especially, at this point, y'all that are following this right now are the people that are going to have the most influence on the game, other than, my direct friends and family and me. So, yep, I appreciate you tuning in for this extra rambly version. Hopefully the light cars in the background that happen to be super squeaky today haven't bothered you too much. And thanks for tuning in. Hope you have a great week. Bye.